Yes, Guyana to the world.
GlobeSpan is a Guyanese dialogue moving towards the realization of one nation in one Guyana. It's a platform that offers an all-inclusive discussion with the pros, the cons, the ones that is taken aside, and the ones that stand in the middle. GlobeSpan believes agreeing and disagreeing are part of the nation's building.
She is a beauty, beautiful Guyana, with wonderful people all over this country.
GlobeSpan believes every Guyanese voice is part of the nation's building. As we span the globe for voices from the diaspora and those living home, we stand on our commitment that we are all Guyanese working towards one nation in one Guyana. As the world turns on its axis bringing changes, we as Guyanese must adapt to those changes for a better Guyana for all. GlobeSpan stands on its axis with its belief that one nation, one Guyana, one destiny must include voices from all corners of Guyana.
With many flavor, 6 different people blended together. Raise your flag high in unity, we're family with one destiny. Raise your flag high in unity.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to GlobeSpan Television. We are spanning the globe. Thanks for joining us tonight, and thanks to Mr. Noir Singh for making this program available, and Mr. Ryan Gobin and Mr. Devin Bissoon, our 2 technical directors. Tonight, as you can see, we're starting a bit late because we have been unable to connect with our Indigenous peoples, but we have Ms. Keita Thomas here. We are supposed to have Mr. Mark Rodriguez. He will be connecting later on, and Miss Keisha Benedict, also another Indigenous person. So what has been happening over the months, we have been getting calls that we're not bringing Indigenous people on our program, we're only bringing Indo and Afro-Guyanese. So tonight is a chance we have here to talk to our Indigenous brothers and sisters. This program, as I said, the views expressed tonight are solely those of our guests, and does not reflect those of the staff and management of GlobeSpan Television. And we are a fair and balanced network, can be heard on Facebook and YouTube and all the other social media. So tonight I have Ms. Thomas here. Ms. Thomas is an advocate against injustice on Indigenous people. Ms. Thomas, good night.
Good evening, Dr. Rose, and thanks for having me.
Okay. Now, I want to do thanks for being our guest tonight, and we're waiting the rest. Hopefully, we'll get them on later on. Now, I want to just touch on some things here because I want to make this a very educational program. The Indigenous population in Guyana is the 4th largest after Indo-Guyanese, Afro-Guyanese, and the mixed race. And you all are about 78 to 80,000 people, which is about 10 to 11%. Now, in the Indigenous communities, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, we have 9 Indigenous peoples. Am I right?
Yes, that's correct.
And I'm going to name them Aquayo, Arawak, Carib, Makusi, Patoma, Raprochon, YY, Waru, and Karush. Now,
well, I must correct you there in some of your pronunciation.
Okay, go ahead.
First, we have the Arikunas, the Akowayos, the Arawaks, also known as the Lokonos, Carib, Makushi, Patamona, Wapichan, YYs, and the Waraus.
Okay, good. So tell me something. These are 9 distinct groups. And from what I gather, you all speak 9 different languages among these groups. Am I right to say that?
Yes, that is correct. We are 9 nations and we speak 9 different languages.
But is there correct one common language among all natives, indigenous peoples? outside of English?
There are Carbons and Arawakan languages, and the Warao is an isolated language.
Okay. Now, are these groups collaborating together on all issues affecting the Amerindian communities, or they're separate? They take separate approaches.
Well, to my knowledge, the different nations, they have similar issues, similar problems within the indigenous communities. On modernization, I should say, in modern day now, we have the youth especially, they try to cling to the modern lifestyle, but then different people, different nations, they approach and they deal with the problems differently, but we all do have common issues, and more than likely, we can only move forward or make a change if we come together. And that is what the indigenous people have been moving in that direction as of lately in the recent years.
Okay. What indigenous group do you belong to?
I am a proud Lokono Arawak woman.
You're an Arawak. Okay, good. Glad to hear
Yes.
that. Now, the Arawak, am I right? Which is the largest group? I want this to be educational for our viewers to know. Which is the largest group?
Well, so far, the largest group of indigenous peoples or the largest population of the Arawaks? Which question are you asking?
No, the Arawak has the largest population.
Uh, I won't say that. Do we have the population in Guyana? No, we're not the largest.
Among the indigenous groups.
I think I don't have that info directly. I can't say for sure. I can't verify that, but I don't think the Arawaks are the largest group. We have lots of Arawaks in Suriname and French Guyana, as well as Guyana here.
Okay. Now, the indigenous peoples are known for making canoes, cassava-based dishes, and pepper pot, which is Guyana's main dish. What other things can you tell our listeners that you all are known for?
Well, there are many contributions indigenous people have made to our country over the years. The few that you named, they're just a few that are most popularly known, right? But there are many contributions that our people have made to this country from far back in history as we can remember. We do craft, which is something that has become more popular lately since the youths and the other folks are becoming more aware of their heritage and their language and where they belong. There have been more, how should I say, there have been more showcasing of our handicrafts and our food, like you mentioned, and our traditional attires and all these things. People, they wear them proudly now more than before.
Okay. A World Bank survey in 2020 shows that 20% of the indigenous people speak their language fluently, and that's very, very low. Do you think that amount is accurate?
Well, I think it's lower than that. One of the reasons why is that we are known as the English-speaking country, but we're not, because over 90% of Guyanese speak Creoles. There are the indigenous people who we speak our own languages, and the very few, well, the numbers are rising now of persons who actually speak English, as in strictly English on a daily basis, right? So some of the languages are more, the Arawakan language, the Lokono language has been listed as moribund, and we are trying, we've been trying for many years now, making little strides for language revitalization. And that is one of the things that I'm passionate about because I am a language activist for the Lokono language.
Okay. Am I seeing Mr. Rodriguez? Mr. Rodriguez, Mark? Mark, thanks for coming on. Good night. Yeah, we just got started, and I will ask you a couple of questions just now. But Mark, can you give us a background about on yourself? Tell us what you do. And have you called? Are the police involved? Okay, so you have a series of problems there. Now, I was talking to Miss Thomas just now. Uh, the Amerindian languages from different groups, there, as you know, there are 9 Amerindian groups, but I think the languages are becoming extinct. Why is that? Okay. Um, Okay. Ms. Thomas, can you tell me, are there intermarriages among the Amerindian 9 groups? Ms. Thomas?
Yes, of course. Uh, there are many intermarriages in the different nations, and it's not only in one group, but in most groups that you can find intermarriages.
From what I gather, each group has a different way of celebrating marriages. Can you explain to our listeners the most common way or marriage is being conducted in your community among the Amerindians? Marriage ceremony?
Well, there are traditional ways of joining together in relationships, but that's not to say that it has been practiced in a lot of the different nations, because the Christian religion has, pardon my language, was infiltrated our communities almost all over the country. So therefore, people would just follow the Christian way of doing things. But there are customs still in some communities that people follow as traditional ways of uniting and actually coming together as a couple and those things, like as an indigenous way of marriage. But it's not popular as it was.
You know, most blacks marry the Christian way. Hindus, they marry the Hindu way, like under a tent and bamboo and so forth. Mr. Rodriguez, can you describe what an indigenous marriage is like? Can you describe to us, tell our listeners, what an indigenous marriage is like? What performance, what is being done when indigenous people are getting married? That, okay, what a traditional marriage is like. Describe it to us. So it's just like a Christian marriage then, not much difference. Okay, September month is described as Amerindian month in Guyana. What celebration you all do have during the month of September, just last month?
Go ahead.
Samantha, you want to weigh in on that? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay. Samantha, what celebrations takes place among the Arawaks during Heritage Month? Samantha?
Well, like Mark is saying, over the years, they it has shifted from being a celebration of the indigenous people to more of a money making thing. That's for one. The second thing is that the traditions that we usually practice and we usually showcase in celebration, it's hardly there anymore. So it's hard to show the people or to show our own people what an indigenous celebration is supposed to be like. What is the tradition of the Arawaks, of the Caribs, of the Arikunas? We are not coming together as indigenous people to showcase our culture anymore. September becomes a month of exhibition of the indigenous people.
Okay. You're
So
gonna get it.
it is hard to showcase our culture these days.
Why is that?
Because everything falls under either it falls under the Ministry of Amerindian Affairs, which is the political entity, or they're bringing the indigenous people out of their communities to come to Georgetown to do a dance, a skit, a poem, and that's it. You know, the real culture. As an indigenous woman, I have learned from my parents about the different dances of the Arawakan people. And when you look at the young people today who even, they have a group and they go to dance, they're not even doing that, you know? They don't even know how to do that because everything is either you're dancing like the Spanish, the Brazilians, or you're just doing part of what our culture is in your dances and whatever you do because that is what is expected of them. You know, that's what they're being taught. That is what they have to do in order to come to Georgetown to showcase and what the ministry does what pay their transportation, give them some kind of sloppy food to eat, and then send them back to their communities. What are they going to teach their peers? What are they taking back to the community when they just come like a exhibition, as a showcase to other people. We have lost touch with our culture when it comes to celebration, celebrating our heritage. Everywhere you go, every part of this country now, you know, they have a little heritage celebration here, heritage celebration there. But people don't even understand the true meaning of heritage, much less to celebrate it. The sports of this kind of event, yes, it brings the young people together, but all in all, it's shifted from being actually a cultural event to just a money making thing.
Okay. We're gonna get to the real issues affecting the Amerindian communities right after this break. Let me go to commercial. All from onesupplier.com. You can get all your West Indian food and groceries, roti, fish, meat from all from one supplier. You can use your EBT card or your credit cards. Now the number is 718-551-4600. 3292. All the people in the Queens area, you can go to allfromonespire.com and your groceries and food will be delivered directly to your home. So there you have it. And then GlobeSpan. GlobeSpan is one of the only travel agencies that has been in existence for the last 30 years and will book you to go any part of the world. That's upcoming tours in Dubai, India, South Africa, Norway, etc. Anywhere we want to go, call GlobeSpan at 718-845-0437. That's offices here in New York, on Rosalton, and Bal Park in Guyana, and Shagunas in Trinidad and Tobago. So for all your travel experiences, call GlobeSpan 718-845-0437. Thank you. Now, let's get into the real issues. What are some of the major issues affecting the Amerindian communities today? Mark, you there? What are some of the major issues or problems within the Amerindian community today? Okay, let me narrow it down. Blackouts. You all having constant blackouts in the region? Uh, Okay. And Miss Thomas, what about water? Potable water.
Well, my community, in the community of Wakapao, we do not have access to potable water. We still use our reservoirs and our ponds. We don't have electricity in the community. The roadways are bad. They were just built by locals. And the economic system is it's not good at all in the community. And this is not just for my community. There are many other communities like ours who go through similar issues, who have similar issues and similar situations within the community. We
You're
have
saying
we have
you're saying that
had
you don't have running water
in
in
the
your
past.
community?
No, we don't. We don't. We have
No.
we have had many issues in the past with that same water, uh, access to clean water has been a problem for many years now. We tried reaching out to relevant authorities. Uh, there once was a team in the community. They went there to build slow sand filters. They started, it never finished. In a community with over 3,000 people, they gifted us with four filters, yes, four little bottles that works as filters. So when it comes to the dry season, the people suffer with sickness, with you know, drinking contaminated water because when the water gets really, really salt, the fishes die in the creek. You can't use the creek water. The ponds are dried up. The reservoirs, the water is so low. You know, hard
And
to get clean water in
what
communities.
village is that?
That is the Wakapao village.
Uh,
Wakapao is situated in the lower parts of the Pomeroon River.
And that's
So
that's in region what? Region two?
region two,
So you said
yes.
electricity is bad, running water, there's none.
No electricity. There's no electricity there. There's no potable water. And there are many, many other ills within the community, many other issues that we, the indigenous people, face. And we continue the struggle each day without much help. You know, like recently as last week, I had to take the body of my cousin from Georgetown Hospital to our village for burial. And it was a real struggle for us to get him there, right? Because he came with one issue at the Georgetown Hospital, and he didn't even die from his injuries. He died from neglect, the issues that arise from neglect. Because when you're there and you're indigenous and you don't have a voice, well, then they leave you there to die. I had issues with Georgetown Hospital for my relatives before, and now we have another one, another person who died. Two relatives died so far at Georgetown. And these things, there's nobody to look into these matters for people, and we, the relatives, we're the ones who have to pay the strain, and we continue to suffer and lose our loved ones, right? So, other than that, there's, there's so many things that goes on in the indigenous that if I'm to list them, they would be a very long list.
What about the
And
health
when
system
you
in
speak
your
out
region?
about it,
What about the health system? Is there a hospital in your region?
there is Sunny Hospital in Region 2, right? But to get from my village to Sunny Hospital, you have to spend almost $100,000, right? Because you have to hire if you have an emergency. Recently, another cousin of mine, his son had an accident, was going into the creek. His bone was shattered. His legs were, well, one side of his leg was shattered. They had to hire a boat to go to Charity, then hire a vehicle from Charity to reach the study. And then when he reached there, they gave him painkillers, bound up his feet, and sent him out without no X-ray, no surgery, and this boy foot was hanging like it was just hanging there. When his mother bring him to Georgetown, and they actually had to take him to a private hospital. The doctor said if she didn't take him to the hospital, her 20-year-old son would have lost one of his legs. Because that's what the system is like. If you don't have money, you die. That is what the hospitals are like in Guyana here. And that is what Study Hospital did for a relative of mine. My cousin who I buried last week, he came with an accident with a fractured spine. He didn't die from that injury. He died from septic shock, which was caused from a UTI, which was caused because the catheter was in his body for too long. So that is one of the issues that I am aware of that indigenous people go to this country, and that's the struggle we face as indigenous people.
Mr. Rodriguez, what about the health system in your region? because the government is pumping a lot of money into the region. What about education in your region, Mr. Rodriguez? How is it? How the schools are functioning? What about jobs? Okay. Now, let's go to cost of living. The government has just given out a cash grant of $100,000. So I'm assuming that people in your region received that cash grant as well. And the government also announced that it will be giving another one-off cash grant of $200 to each household. But having said that, how cost of living presently affecting the populations in the interior? Miss Thomas, how is cost of living affecting the people in your region? Miss Thomas, you're on mute.
Hi. Yes. Well, we've heard of it. I've seen the news and all of it, but it is unclear right now to the people, like who actually qualify for it or how they will actually go about distributing it. Everybody would love to have the 200,000, yes, because
Well,
cost of living is high. There is no
it's coming to
employment
each,
in the village.
it's coming to each household.
Yes. Yeah, I did read about it in the news. People are like, they're kind of, some people are excited about it. Some people, I guess some people are praying for it. But, well, we'll wait and see. Just, people are just basically waiting to see what's going to
But
be the actual outcome.
did people in your community receive the cash grant of $100,000 that the government gave out a couple of weeks ago?
Not that I know of, no.
Maybe they haven't come there as yet, I guess. So cost of living,
Probably.
are goods very expensive in your areas?
Yes, it definitely is. Like most of the items there are like three times the price in Georgetown.
But why is
Some
that?
even more.
You all do a lot of farming there, so it should be cheaper for you all down there.
That's just a perception, my dear. Even if people have the land to farm and they do large scale farming, who is going to buy their produce? We live so far away from charity. To come out of charity to come out of Wakapa with 2 bags of load, the passenger boat, you have to pay freight, you have to pay your transportation to come, you have to sit there and sell, and you only have a certain time to do that. When the boat is ready to go back in, you have to pay your way to go back in. So the market is not available, and people are not, how should I put it? They're not encouraged to farm on a large scale, even though they have the land there because of marketing, because of transportation, because of the cost for everything. They just farm and they provide for themselves a food, right? But the other things that you may need, like rice, sugar, flour, whenever.
Mr. Rodriguez, what about mining? There are a lot of minerals in the region there. What about mining? How is mining being done?
Well,
This government has been spending a lot of money in the Amerindian communities in various areas. So have you seen any improvement in recent times, Ms. Thomas?
Well, I can't say no, and then again, I can't say yes, because in my community, there is a health center, and yet still, every pregnant woman has to travel from Wakapao village to study hospital to give birth to their child, right? So you have empty shelves there. You have a secondary school who where there is hardly any trained teachers. The coastlanders will go into the village to teach, and they go in on a Monday where they can't teach on a Monday, and they come out on a Friday to go spend the weekend with their families. So you have teachers for Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. How much can a child or a classroom gain from a teacher with that kind of attendance, right? Now the children in the community, they're the ones that are writing CXC and is like on the way out, you know, due to economic system, most of the parents can't afford for that child to further their education. So the cycle continues where the children, the people of the village are not afforded the opportunities to become teachers. There are a few, yes, there are a few, but then the majority, when it comes to secondary school, majority of the teachers are not trained or not available. So you build a big school, you build a big health center, but they're just there like shells, empty shells. So like I said, I can't say yes and I can't say no either because they're building buildings, but buildings don't teach children or buildings don't make you well when you're sick. So there's a doctor in the community. There are no equipment, nothing for her to do a scan or a proper check. So it's like you put her there with her hands tied behind her back, she can't function to capacity. And this is just one of the few. We have the only secondary school in the area. The other secondary school is only a charity or a country in Maruka, and it's very far away from each other, from the place. So, there is much need for more intervention, more trained teachers for the children. The children are the ones who suffer because when you don't have an education and you can't help yourself, what will you teach your children? The cycle will continue. So that's what the education system is like in there.
Mr. Rodriguez, can you tell us some vein on that, and let's hear about in your community? How is the education system there?
Well, of course, there are challenges at the moment. Something I really wanted to get, for others to know. There's something strange going on at the dormitory. I might come out a little bit, but it's been happening quite recently at a village where a little girl died mysteriously, where they are possessed with demons. Now, I live very closely to a dormitory or very closely to a secondary school, a stone throw. And we've been listening or we've been hearing cries for hours. These children are tormented by nights, in the nights. They're being tormented spiritually. By morning, they're mentally tired, and then they have to find themselves in school to attend. That very next morning, after being tormented that whole night.
Let me just stop you there. How do you mean they're being tormented? Tormented by whom?
They've been tormented by maybe demons, and this is affecting their education. And they
But
scream all night.
I mean demons. What is a demon? A spirit?
The girls, them are being possessed. These dormitory, these girls that live in the dormitory, they are being possessed by demons. You can hear them screaming. It has become a nuisance to the nearby residents, and absolutely nothing is done to help these two little children. And I say by next morning they are drained. You know, they are mentally drained and has to stand up to classes all day. You know, and that's unfair. And they're living along with it at the moment. Nobody is doing anything. Absolutely nothing. Of course, I see there are Christians, they come in and pray, but it goes on, and there's nothing to stop that. And I'm really, really, really in sympathy with those kids.
What
Oh,
is a
I think
demon?
I can interject a little on that, if I
Explain
may.
what is a demon? I don't understand. What is a demon?
What's
What is a demon? What we said they're possessed with demons. What is that?
well
Evil spirits?
some evil spirits, I should say, yeah, that take possession of them for hours.
The whites,
And
adults
this
are
has been really tormenting them.
Well,
Go
if I
ahead.
may share my opinion on this, Dr. Rose,
okay, go
uh,
ahead.
as a mother and as a person who, well, I wouldn't say I'm a spiritualist, but I don't get involved too much in religion or these type of things, right? But I think the children and even the people in the area, in certain areas, they don't really understand what goes on there. So they just say these children are demon possessed, because of learning or listening to what the Christians or the religious perspective, right? Listening to people from that perspective. So they don't actually understand what goes on. Yes, there is a strong presence of spiritualism in indigenous communities. There are practices that we, the indigenous people, hold closely and we adhere to. And then there may be other people that wouldn't understand our way of life, and they sort of contradict what we do with their practices, and then it tells on them mentally. Mental health is one of the things that we need to place a lot of emphasis on in indigenous communities. Dealing with young people, I have seen this same sort of possession like display in the children in Wakapao Secondary School as well. And there was one time when it's like the kids were scared. They were scared, and this fear drives them to start screaming and sort of getting out of control, right? But when you speak to the children, and I did this personally, so a lot of young ladies in my community, they are scared. They are scared of things that they don't understand. They're scared of things that other children may do, and they're afraid to speak out. And there are many factors that contribute to these children, reaching to this point of what they call possession. But it's not, I don't know. I don't like I say, I don't really practice religion and all of these things. But I think it's the mere fact that there are so many Christians, so many denominations, so many different people telling you what it is. It confuses them, you know. So they just pass it. Oh, they're demon possessed. By what demons? By what type of spirits?
So
Why is it
you're
happening?
saying is not spirits, but it's because the kids are confused and so forth, and so that's why they behave like that.
Well, I'm not giving a diagnostic to what happened, but I'm telling you from experience. You know, Speaking to children who experience these, how could I say, these trans, like because they're not aware of what happens when they reach in this sort of whatever possesses them or whatever you can describe it as. Most of them are unaware of what they're doing. So sometimes you really have to go into a more uh, mental. You have to know what is going on with these children mentally in order to try to help them because there will be a whole big group of people coming to pray for these children. And like Mark is saying, it still continues. It continues because it is not something that will go away with prayers, right? You can pray for weeks and yet still these things continue because it is not something that goes away like that. You have to teach children of a mental problem, mental issues that they face, fear, you know, and anger, and anxiety. All of these things is what the children go through, and people don't understand it. But I've heard from people, like I said, I'm not saying it
Um,
is,
I'm gonna leave
that
gonna leave that
that
demon
is how I
conversation. I'm gonna leave that demon conversation alone because I don't understand how kids can be just with demons. What is a demon? I don't know. So I'm gonna leave that conversation alone. Now I want to go to the politics. There's been a party, an Amerindian party, they run by Mr. Leonard Schumann, called the Liberal and Justice Party in the last election. And that was the only party we know coming up from the Amerindian community. So what's happening with politics in your region today?
You directed that question to me.
Yes,
Oh, you're speaking about the Justice Party for the
right,
Amerindians, Mr.
right,
Leonard Schumann.
right.
I just have to one thing to say about that. He's a betrayer of trust. And absolutely nothing more to say about him. Thank you on that.
So
well, if I may add to that,
so
there's no lie.
go ahead.
I was a very strong standing member of the Liberty and Justice Party. I I sort of believed in the vision of Mr. Lennox Truman when he started, you know, as an activist, as an advocate for Indigenous peoples. I was looking for that person who would actually not stand up for us, but stand with us as Indigenous people, as representatives, to fight for us, to represent us, to be there with us. But everybody knows what happened to that. And I would say I am disappointed because when you have expectations, you get disappointed, right? So I'm not saying that I'm disappointed. It's just that I I would have loved to see where if that can actually materialize to have someone in a political front that would actually represent the indigenous peoples of this country.
Well, he became a deputy speaker, and that's one of the highest
Yeah,
position in the National Assembly, and Amerindian ever achieved. I know there have been ministers, but he became a
yeah.
deputy speaker, and so I don't know, but if you all said that trust is a problem there. So let me ask you all a question now. Uh, the elections coming up next year, how do Amerindians view the two main parties?
Well, for me, from what I observe, the the government has their own people within the indigenous communities, and there are a lot of support for the opposition right now. Opposition meaning the Alliance for Change because of the new man in charge there now. He was
Nigel
known,
Hughes.
Mr. Hughes was known to be a person that would, represent indigenous peoples, right? So a lot of the indigenous population look to him as, the change they wanted to see in a very long time. According to what some said, he is the next Lennox Schumann, but they're hoping he don't go the same way Lennox Schumann did with the event, right? So that's the reaction that I got from the few communities that I would interact with from time to time in this community. A lot of people are eager to see what Mr. Hughes will bring to the table. Uh, of course, there are people who, they keep saying they want because we care and the grant to continue, so they're gonna keep supporting the present government for those type of things to continue. So, so it's a mixed reaction.
Mr. Rodriguez, do you support Nigel Hughes too?
Kaichor News, I was a very strong supporter of the newsletters column there. They don't write any more letters to me.
No, no,
While I may have,
I'm talking about Nigel Hughes from the Alliance for Change Party.
oh, while I may have my choice, I am right now I'm neutralized, but I may have my choice of party who I may support in the coming general elections. The PPP has been doing a lot of work, but how transparent are they doing it? Plus, they are on record, right, abusing Amerindians. There is no respect for the indigenous people by the PPP government. As I said, they are on record. There are a number of issues where they had the burning of genitals under the PPP, where you had now the raping, the abuses perpetrated by senior government officials. And I'm not afraid to say this. I'm at liberty to be saying this because I live in an area where it was prevalent. And this is one of the reasons I think that the subject ministry would not support giving social workers to be out in the savannah because they would be opening a can of worms. The AFC has been doing some very good job so far, but there is a lot more to be done, in terms of getting the right message out there in the various indigenous communities. Everybody knows that Mr. Nigel Hughes has won alongside battle for a long case that was there I think 20-something years or more in the Upper Mazaruni, where they won the case against the state for the Aquia Nation. So he is on record of doing some good, right, balanced.
What about APNU / PNC?
Okay, but APNO definitely has a lot of work more to do also. They have to do a lot of more work and they have to lead by example. And I think one of the disadvantages that they are facing now is that infighting. And in this, stage where election would be held in a year from now, they have to get back on track and, do the right thing.
Now, let me ask you both of you a question. Are any one of you associated with the shows?
What's that?
Is any one of you associated with the largest group there? What do you call it? The shows?
The Tushaus.
Tushaus, sorry.
The Tushaus are the leader of indigenous communities, the villages. And if you ask if I associate with them, yes, I do. I do associate with all the officials that I come in contact with from time to time. Because, of course, in order for us to move forward, we have to work together for the good of our people.
Okay. What about you, Mr. Rodriguez?
Oh, the Tushals. Yeah, I I do work along with some Tushals. I'm not doing it as I was doing it before. As you know, I'm becoming more involved in other issues. Um, Not directly with the village councils though, but they get my cooperation.
Okay. They're drilling oil in the Starbrook block. How far is that away from you, Mr. Rodriguez?
Oh, the Stabber Block, that's far. I'm the Rupununi. We are about close to 500 miles away from the coast.
Okay, okay, okay. And the
We're
same
deep
goes
down
for you too,
south.
Miss Thomas. This goes about a long distance from you too.
Well, no, we are closer to the coastline because Pomeroon River is it we our village is a tributary close to the mouth of the Pomeroon River, which is at the Atlantic, right?
Okay,
Uh, there are things that I discuss and there are things that I don't think I make any sense discussing because who am I to ExxonMobil and to the government? Will they listen to me? I don't think so. So that is that one topic there. I can talk from now till my grandchildren get grandchildren. I don't think I would make a difference there.
okay.
We have to come together. Only when indigenous people, only when Guyanese as a whole come together and stand up, then maybe the government will take a stance against ExxonMobil. So that's my take on that.
Now let we're coming to the end of the program. Let me ask Bobby, how the Amerindian communities function. Is there a leader for every community? And if so, what that leader is called? Miss
Okay, let me begin. The Tushal is the head of the village, and there is a council, right?
Okay,
The Tushal chairs the meeting. That's why you call it the village council, and they administrate that community or that village on a day-to-day basis. You know that seeing things are run right, seeing that people make complaints, whatever, if it's a utility problem, if it's a road problem, if it's a domestic abuse problem, um, and other issues. Farming, they try to assist in several areas. In documenting visitors, documenting people who may apply to get village status. There's a system where you come from one village to the next village. In particular, St. Ignatius, a lot of people apply for resident status there because of the secondary school's presence there. So some people would prefer to come and live nearby to see that there proper supervision over their children. But also because of the closeness to the Latin tongue, people also come out there to get jobs. They mostly are employed by the Chinese. Some are employed as farm hands, and other, different laboring jobs.
the Amerindian communities have always been arguing or fighting for land titles. Why is that?
Well, we know for a fact that the Amerindians are the fastest growing population at present. St. Ignatius has a problem with land extension, and actually, it is the first time I'm seeing an indigenous village is going to be contaminated or clustered. An Amerindian village normally lives in a very spacious place. There are lots of places where they live and they are accustomed to doing this. And some of them may be planting their gardens. Some of them, have different reasons for having these plot of land. And from very long. From time immemorial, Amerindians has always been having that close connection to lands. And they, I think, stood up against the colonial times, and defended their eco spaces. That's many years ago. So there is some connection with, and I can say that there is a spiritual connection with Amerindians and land, but people does not understand it. For instance, I heard earlier about speaking about water, but you can see that connection when there is a creek nearby, and you see those children in that water, and they're so happy, to be in that, atmosphere, having a very happy time, bathing, ducking, swimming, and they're screaming joyfully. And when that water goes down, in the Rupununi, it's very humid, it's very hot, and sometimes the water go down to 0 level. You can see the sadness, in these kids' face. You can see the sadness in everybody because there is something missing.
Are there lots of Venezuelans or Brazilians or people in those Amerindian communities?
Yeah. Well, at present there are there are a number of Brazilians and Spanish Venezuelans in Latam. That's in Latam. I don't think there's so much in the villages. Because they're monitored, they're closely monitored. I think there's a system in place where the government, the Regional Democratic Council, has given them a space in the Latam area, a place called Bon Success, where there are some Indians, the Indios, they have given them some assistance with some tents, and some makeshift houses, and they're there. Some of them, they are involved in making crafts. Some are involved in, they're fitting in, they're involved in construction. Well, of course, at first when they came, it was very alarming because of the crime rate was spiked in Latam, but it's under control now at present. I can say that safely.
Okay, we have come to the end of the program, even though we started late. I'll ask both of you for your remarks. Ms. Thomas, you can go first. Closing remarks.
Well, again, I must say thank you very much for having me on your program. It was educational as well as, it's good interacting with you. I hope on another occasion we can meet and discuss more. And feel free to reach out to me at any time.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Oh yes, I must express gratitude and heartfelt appreciation for allowing me and my colleague to be with GlobeSpan here tonight. I also want to extend greetings to all my Guyanese brothers and sisters, that's particularly the indigenous population. And I hope that this can be a continued process where we can discuss issues and both that is affecting us and that can educate not only at the local or regional level, but at the international level, so they can hear as we voice our concerns as what is happening in these parts of our indigenous communities. And thank you very much once more again, Dr. Rose, for having us here this evening.
It has been a pleasure having both of you, and sometime in the future, I'll try to bring you all back. I want to say thanks to all our listeners for listening, and to our sponsors, and to Mr. Noir Singh for making this program available, and Kevin Bisson and Ryan Gobin, our technical directors. I also want to encourage all our listeners to purchase my book. It's called A Race to the Finish Line, the election of Barack Hussein Obama as the first Black president of the United States. It's only $39.95, so you can get a copy paperback for that price. But soon we'll have the hard copy coming out, and that will be over $20. It's best to have one now. So thanks again to all our listeners and to all our sponsors. And thanks to both of you, Ms. Thomas and Mr. Rodriguez. It's a pleasure having both of you here tonight. Thank you very much.